WHIP, Philly's #1 college radio station.
We're back here, Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. Temple gets their first victory of the year under Matt Rule as they defeated the Army Black Knights this past Saturday. And now joining us in studio, one of the best players ever to don the cherry and the white, played from 1983 to 1986 under Bruce Arians, accumulated 4,895 yards with 39 touchdowns, and that is the one and only number 6, Paul Palmer, who joins us in studio. Paul, it's Zach Gelb and Chase Sr. Thanks for joining us. How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. I barely made it. Thanks for waiting for me.
Well, I know that you were very concerned as well, because last time you were on with Chase, you did the whole TV stuff, and this is radio, and you go to me, I have to shave before this? I'm like, Paul, it's all right. It's just radio. You don't have to shave
man.
or anything.
Looking
You're looking
fly.
good, by the
looking
way.
fly.
I'm looking okay. I got a few gray hairs showing, so I figured if I had to be on TV, I'd better shave. But good. Thank you.
Now, we were watching the 2020 media piece that was put out about you, and those guys do a great job. Mark Zumoff, Harry Donahue was featured in the piece as well, and they called you Boo Boo Palmer. Can you give us the history behind this? Is that from the cartoon show?
Indirectly from the cartoon show. It's no one in my family calls me Paul. The only person that calls me Paul is my fiancée Leah, because when I met her, I told her my name was Paul. But teammates growing up from my old neighborhood, a couple older people since being on Facebook said, well, do we still call you Boo Boo or you go by Paul? Now, I go by most friends and family, close people call me Boo Boo, and it's totally fine. The honest truth about the nickname is when I was sad, I always said it was like a cute name for a cute kid.
Do you like it?
I love it. I love it. I have Boo Boo Bear tattooed on my leg running with a football. When I was younger, I was kind of getting to the age where I shouldn't have been making mistakes in my pants.
Right.
And I'd be outside playing with the other kids, and I'd feel something. I'd run home. By the time I got home, it was in my pants. So the nickname Boo Boo pretty much came from that.
Man.
And honestly, I've never told anyone at Temple that, but a lot of my family and friends know exactly where it came from.
Sticking with the piece that 2020 did, Temple, back when you were playing, was an independent school, and you guys were playing schools like FSU and Alabama, some of the top-notch schools in the country. And during the last couple of years, Temple has struggled to solidify its football program, but in the last couple of years, moving into the Big East and the American, you're seeing Temple play some national opponents like Notre Dame and Louisville this season. How was it going down there to some of those big venues where the house is packed on a consistent basis and coming in as an underdog and playing pretty well against some of those top-notch teams?
I think one of the best things that I took away from it, and one of the best things my teammates took away from it was, we went down to Georgia my first year. We went down to Alabama. We went out to BYU. We played down at Florida State my first couple years. And one of the biggest things you realize is if I can do it against them, I can do it against anyone. Or you want to find out what you have. Mm-hmm. You want to. It's great to be a starter at any level.
Right.
You get credit. It's great to play well against smaller schools and things of that nature. But it's really important to really find out what you're made of. And a lot of times I find myself telling the kids that I coach is like, test yourself. See if he's really better than you, or see if he's just the guy that's on paper. See if he's really better than you are, because sometimes these guys are just written up to be good and they're not as good as they are. And we went down to Florida State and all these other places, and I thought we played extremely well, and all the games were close. If you look at the scores, I'd bet the scores were only a touchdown or two difference in a lot of those games. So it kind of showed us that we were as good as, maybe better than people thought we were, and it kind of showed us showed some of us that we were as good as we thought we were.
When you look back at your career, obviously I played football growing up as a kid. I was an offensive lineman and a defensive tackle, and you learn a lot of.
You guys don't know. He's huge.
6'4". So when we were in Notre Dame, people actually stopped me. They go, "Oh, what year did you play for Temple?" And I'm like, "I'm only a sophomore." But they teach you a lot of life lessons. When you look back at your career from '83 to '86 here with the Owls, you had some remarkable coaches with Bruce Arians, who's now doing some great things in the NFL with the Arizona Cardinals. Led that Colts team to a playoff last year. And what do you take away, though, when you look back from your career? What did you learn from wearing the cherry and the white?
I learned that there's times where the odds are against you. And so on so many different levels while I was here, the odds were just simply against us. We didn't have the weight room some of the places had. And we were wearing, my first year or two here, we wore pony cleats. And they were like wearing a pair of Timberlands on the football field, you know? But you really got to find out kind of what you're made of. You really got to find out what your friends were like. You know, you get in a situation, you look around the huddle, and my best friend was the offensive tackle, and another best friend was my tight end. You look around the huddle, and for that moment, you take it in, and you realize, like, holy cow, man, these guys right here are like my brothers. And to this day, they're my brothers, and you get to find out, you get to just find out what you're made of. You get to look around, and very few eyes did I ever see there was any quit. And that's what I try to impress upon younger kids that I play. Like, you know, it's an old quote, you play the game to win, and you absolutely play the game to win. You find out what you're made of, and you find out who you can rely on outside of football. Outside of football. In life, you realize at those certain moments on the football field, like, I can depend on this guy because I know he's going to give me all he has, and I know he's going to try his butt off. And they come to the same, hopefully they came to the same conclusion about me, that they can trust me, not just as a football player, but as a life friend. I can be trusted to do all I can to better their life and to make things better for them.
Paul Palmer joins us in studio right now. Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. Main event, Zach Gelb and Chase Sr. here with you. And you talked about how your facilities weren't the most ideal when you were here at Temple. And now they have Edberg Olson Hall. They have an indoor practice facility as well. And they're making it into a big program. Now, the football team, they get their first win of the season after a few losses. Matt Rule brings some new life, that old Al Golden kind of style back to Temple University that was lost a little bit under Steve in the past few years. Let's say if you sit down with the high school student, because you coach a lot of high school football these days, and they say, Paul, Matt's looking for me at Temple. Why should I go there? What would you tell them about what Temple University provides?
I would tell them that first and foremost, Temple University provides them with a great education. A great education. I tell them that it's a very diverse environment. These other places say that they're diverse, but Temple's absolutely diverse. You look around campus and you see any and everybody. Of all ages, not just people, not just your peers as far as age, but you see a lot of older people that are coming back to school. And I'd also tell them that if you want to play football, you want to find out how good you really are, you go to Temple, because you're going to play a great schedule. And not only are you going to play a great schedule, but you're also going to have the opportunity to develop into a pretty daggone good football player if you apply yourself. And I love the place. Any kid I talk to always talks to me about going to Temple. Temple has been extremely, extremely good for me, good to me. My 4 years on campus were absolutely incredible. At one point, they were saying we could live off of campus, and I was saying, I'm not living off of campus. I'm staying in the dorms, because the dorms are so much fun. So, great place to be, great place to grow. You know, great environment, 100% great environment.
Now, the record the last couple of years doesn't really speak to some of the personal success that some of these players have had. We see every year there's always a couple of guys that do make it to the NFL and can be a pretty good producer in the National Football League. You run up in the Heisman race in 1986. We all know you had a fantastic career, but when did you kind of realize that, okay, I got something here, I might be able to take my talents to the next level and be a solid player?
For me, there were maybe two moments. The one moment was when I was a freshman and Bruce Arians said to me, I fumbled the ball, and I would fumble the ball my freshman year, and the ball would roll 15, 20 yards downfield. And Bruce Arians, whether he was blowing smoke up my behind or whether he was being honest, he said, son, if you hold the ball, you can be the greatest running back that ever played here. I'm like, holy cow. Now, I took it to heart. Now, he probably didn't mean it. He's probably just trying to keep me from not fumbling, but I took it to heart. And lastly, I believe that my first taste of real action against the big dogs, that were my freshman game against Penn State, and I probably only carried the ball a couple times. I was like, holy cow, I can kind of do this. And we went down to Georgia. My freshman year. We're coming out the locker room, and they're calling us dog meat and all this other stuff. But I had a pretty good game. It wasn't great. It may have been like 5 carries for about 36 yards.
It's a good average.
But I felt good about it. And that's kind of the point where I started thinking, like, wow, maybe I can really play at this level. I was only about $1.60 and some change, you know. And that was probably the point where I really started to believe, like, hey, I can do this.
You have a lot of young players on this team, and beginning the year we saw some seniors and juniors get a lot of burn, and now you see an abundance of freshmen and sophomore get in, starting with the quarterback and P.J. Walker. And when he went into that Louisville game, he threw a bomb downfield to Robbie Anderson, and it sort of brought a new life to offense. You see what he did in Cincinnati. Hey, that's his first regular season start, and he played pretty darn well in Cincinnati, and you get the win up against Army. When you look at P.J. Walker, what do you see in the quarterback?
I see a great amount of athleticism. I see an awareness that he has, a pretty mature awareness that he has about the game and about what's going on. And there's a pocket awareness that I see. I see that they can build the team around him. You know, it was kind of tricky. You know, coach was kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. It was, do you let this kid play when you have two older quarterbacks playing, or do you just let him sit and get another year? It'd be great to have him for 5 years. I mean, imagine if he was the starting quarterback, not including this year, but from 4 years from this point on, which would be absolutely incredible. But when you have a situation like this where you're not winning, younger kids start to play, and you have to find out what you have. It's a situation that I myself benefited from with Bruce Arians as a freshman. I think I started about the third game of my freshman year. My fullback, Shelly Poole, started about the fourth game of that year. And Arians would pull out the whole starting unit, stick in the whole second unit at the start of every quarter. Every second quarter, he'd put the whole second unit in. And it gave us a chance to get our feet wet, and it gave us a chance to get a feel for college football itself. So it happens. You know, if you're not winning, you've been in college for 4 or 5 years, and you're playing in a season where you're not winning at all, the younger guys are going to play, and you have to justify it. It's either poop or get off the pot. You know, I hate to say that, and I'm not saying that the seniors haven't done that, but the nature of the beast is if you're not winning, your older guys, the younger guys are going to have to start playing.
Former Temple great Paul Palmer joins the main event, WHIP, Philly's #1 college radio station. And Paul, it was PJ and Zaire who were the two top recruits in the 2013 class. Both of them are starting to get a lot of burn. When you look at Zaire, I had an opportunity to see him play during training camp, but you can't really get a gauge on what type of running back he is because they weren't tackling to the ground, like they are in the games right now. But I'm seeing a guy that can run in between the tackles. I'm also seeing a guy who can bust it outside of the hash marks, make a couple of guys miss, and he's a very tough runner. This guy's only a freshman. I think he's 18 or 19 years old. When you look at his future, in 3 years from now, he's going to put on 10 or 15 pounds if he keeps working hard, and he's going to continue to get consistent carries and gain a lot of confidence, which he already seems to have. I've seen him beefing with defenders and jawing with guys, and like I said, he's so young right now. What have you seen from him, and can you speak to the future he can have if he continues to stay dedicated to the sport?
I think that he is going to be a very, very good running back for Temple. I met him a few years ago at the Anthony Taliaferro game when someone told me that he was going to be coming to Temple. He may be coming to Temple. What's going to happen is, and right now it's not happening. Right now the game is still a little fast for him. Mm-hmm. And it's not he's not the fastest on the field like he was in high school. But there'll come a point where the game just slows down.
Right.
And he sees everything so clearly. He'll take his time. He'll read his blocks. He won't feel rushed to have to just run and go. And once the game slows down, he is going to be a very, very good back. I think he's a pretty damn good back now.
There's no way he looks like a freshman right now if you're an outsider. He's going to
gain weight. I think when I was here, I gained 25 to 30 pounds even, which doesn't seem like, it's 7-8 pounds a year doesn't seem like much, but 7-8 pounds a year is pretty.
That's a lot when it comes to football.
And he's
sure.
He's going to put it on nice and lean. He's going to be good and strong. And the more he's in this offense, he'll get more comfortable. And like I said, once the game starts to slow down for him and for Walker, once the game starts to slow down, man, we're going to really, really be treated to some great offensive football by those two.
Now, when this team left Notre Dame day, and that was an incredible performance. And they left some points out on the field with the field goal unit and everything. No one would have thought they would have been 0-6 going into Army. And this is a young group. It's a brand new head coach. A lot of people say this is a wash season, and they lose to Fordham, they lose to Idaho. But to finally get that first win, how do you build off that and get some confidence going into next year? Because Matt Rule's going to be here for the long haul. He's dedicated to this university.
I think what happens when you get the first win, you can relax a little bit. It's weird, on one hand you relax, and on the other hand you start grinding even more. You like the way it felt, you like the way it tastes, so you start working your behind off. But there's certain times where if you're not doing well and you're not relaxed, you tighten up and you make things worse. I think what'll probably happen from this point on and in order to the future is that they'll relax a little bit. I'm sure practice this week is a lot more enjoyable. I'm sure it's a lot more fun. And I'm sure there's a lot less yelling and a lot more talking and instructing going on. And I think once we continue to do this, we're going to relax a little bit. And once we get a chance to kind of relax a little bit and get comfortable in what we're doing, I think the sky's the limit. I think this program is headed in the right direction.
Now, you're kind of got the bird's eye view up there in the broadcast booth with Harry Donahue, a guy who we saw in that 2020 video you've known for a little while, and you guys seem to have a good camaraderie with each other. What's your relationship with Harry? Because we all know he's a class act. He's very dedicated to his craft, and when it comes to play-by-play, there's nobody really better. I'm
really happy that Harry Donahue is still in the booth. It would be hard enough getting to know someone. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, getting to know them as your partner, the guy you work with. In that case, I have to worry about him as a partner.
Right.
But I don't have to worry about him as a person. And like I said, Chet Zukowski and Harry Donahue, I trust them. And if they tell me something, I trust them. I've known them both for 25, almost 30 years. Mm-hmm. And I trust that they're going to look out for me. I trust that they're going to have my best interest. Whenever they do stuff, they're gonna have my best interest in mind for me, and they're gonna look out for me. Harry makes things easy. I always get there and I joke to him. We get on the mic. He says, "How do I sound?" I say, Harry, how do I sound? I know I don't sound as good as you, but I know how do I sound for me is like, oh, you sound fine. You sound fine. So it's a lot of fun, and it helps me relax a lot because I know there's people around me that care that I do well and hope that I do well.
Final one here right before we let Paul Palmer run, who joins us in studio right now. And, Paul, this defense, it was an inconsistent unit so far throughout the course of the season, but the two players that come and play each and every Saturday have been Tyler Medikevich, who has 88 tackles on the season, and we're only 7 games in, and Nate D. Smith had that big fumble recovery as well. When you look at Medikevich and Nate D. Smith, they're young guys. They were always told in life, similar to you, that, hey, you probably can't play at the next level. You're not going to do much. And you look at what they're doing this year. They're going out there, and they're not just making 1 or 2 plays in a game. They're making 5, 6, 7, and they're having dominating seasons, not only just at Temple, but nationally.
Yes, well, you think of Nate D. Smith first. I have a friend named Kenny Coffin who wore number 35 here. And I honestly believe that and played linebacker as well. And I honestly believe that Nate D. Smith is his favorite player because he texts me during the game saying, "Where's Nate D. Smith?" I think it's pretty incredible, and it's a credit to Nate D. Smith that when Sean Daniels went down, they needed a pass rusher, someone to play defensive end. Instead of bumping up another defensive end, they took Nate D. Smith until one of these younger guys got ready and stuck him at defensive end. And you would think, well, he's undersized, he's this, he's that. I thought he played well. I thought he got pressure on the quarterback. I thought he played well. I think he plays well all over. I think he hits people. He's intense. He knows his assignment. He knows his alignment, and he plays really good ball for us, and we can build on that. Medikevich he's just absolutely
everywhere.
Incredible. He's
everywhere.
One thing about him is that not only does he make a lot of tackles, but they're secure tackles. A lot of times they're textbook perfect tackles. Mm-hmm. Not only does he make a lot of tackles, he makes good tackles, good-looking tackles. I mean, if you took a younger kid and said, well, just watch our inside linebacker. Watch him, and if they watch him, his technique is good. His reads are good. When he tackles well. He very seldom misses a tackle. That's why he has so many tackles. There's a lot of people that have tackles, not as many, but that's partially because they miss so many tackles. He makes a lot of tackles.
He's clutch, too.
He is sideline to sideline. He is, without a doubt, on the defense, the most dependable person that they have on the defense. And without a doubt, the team leader on that defense, and we're going to be. I'm telling you, watch Temple football.
He's such a nitty-gritty
You're going to be
player,
treated.
man.
Oh, he gets down and dirty, baby. You watch him, and you're going to see some great football for these next few years. And God willing, if he stays healthy, we'll get to see him in the NFL as well.
Well, Paul, we really appreciate you coming in studio today. This is a whole lot of fun. Let's do it again down the road. We appreciate you coming in, and thanks so much, my friend.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for having me. I love it.
Paul Palmer right there, former Temple Owl from 1983 to 1986. We'll take a quick break here on the main event, and we'll be back right after these short messages.